hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Welcome again to Straight Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki. And on Straight Talk, we deal with political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside,
Charles Thomas,
Paget Maynard.
Okay, man, we got a lot to cover. But what was that we was talking about before we come on air? We was talking about
the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, proposed in the legislation down there, passed a bill that says you can't teach AP Black history in high schools anymore.
Yeah.
Which is, if anyone out there is unfamiliar with AP classes, it's an advanced placement. Mm-hmm. That's what the AP stands for. Education that gives children college credits while they're still in high school. Mm-hmm. All of my children except one took AP courses and it applied towards their overall graduation in college, and it's an excellent opportunity for students who take their education seriously and study to learn a bit more than the average student learns in high school, and typically you have to be tested into that type of curriculum, or at least you have to earn a place in it. You have to have good grades in order to be even considered for an AP class. And when you're in an AP class, again, you get more advanced information. Right. Well, they have in Florida, they have an advanced placement Black history course. And it teaches more than we were slaves, and then Martin Luther King had a dream, and now we're all free, let's move on. They teach a little bit more about it. Not nearly what I would delve into if I was teaching a curriculum, but it's at least enough that it's taken seriously and respected. Ron DeSantis and his ilk says it has no educational value.
Right,
That's one thing they said.
Say what?
They said it has no educational value. That's a quote. And they also said that it's designed to make white children feel bad about their ancestors' past. Well, if accurately repeating or teaching what happened historically hurts your feelings, I'm sorry.
Hang on.
If you're ashamed of what your parents did, do better. But it does not do anyone any good to stifle and cover up what this country has done in terms of history.
So what happened to the Black kids now? Your white kids feeling bad because you talk about what happened. What happened to the Black kids and their feelings with what they and their parents had to go through?
Who know what happened.
But it's our responsibility as a village to teach our kids at home more than what they would teach at school.
Well,
I agree with you, Chuck.
some
I
don't
agree with you
know.
1,000%, and you know I'm speaking from truth because I taught my own children a lot. But there are plenty of parents out here, man, who aren't equipped to teach their children. There are plenty of parents out here who don't have the time or the resources to do that.
That's true.
And they should not be going to school learning that the founding fathers are some people that we ought to put up on a pedestal. They were enslavers. They raped and enslaved human beings as they were created.
Slave farms.
We need to tell them that. They should learn that we came here involuntarily. They should learn that we had the foundation of civilization created by their ancestors in Africa long before Europe or Asia was even civilized. But they won't learn that in public schools. And they certainly won't learn that unless somebody at home teaches them that and avails them to resources they can learn that on their own. But most of us don't have that ability.
But that's what our Black leadership, these raggedy ass, these preachers in our community that's afraid of the master, and they won't tell the truth when they know the truth is obvious.
Well, I don't think a lot of them do, man.
Well,
I think there's plenty of brothers out there who went to seminary, and they've been given a deep education on the foundation of religion, Be it Islam, be it Christianity, be it Judaism, whatever. And they know.
Yeah.
But most of these cats out here, man, who have these churches, know what they've been told. They know what they've been taught in Sundays, but they don't know the history.
Right.
So I can't really be mad at them about that. But what I can say is, if someone walks up to you and tells you, for example, brother, you come to me and you say that I ought to be adhering to the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. Well, what about the Holy Trinity that existed thousands of years before that one, which was the Father, the Son, and the Mother?
Mm-hmm.
What about that? What about the 42 negative confessions of Ma'at?
Yeah.
Where the 10 Commandments come from?
Yeah.
What about how they turned around the story of how the Nubians came north, downriver, into Kemet to help push the Hyksos out of Kemet, Egypt, and then you turn around and say, no, that's Moses chasing the enslaved children of Israel, and that's in the Bible. That never happened.
Right.
But people believe what they're told, and I don't blame cats who didn't go to seminary school but have a deep abiding love for God, and that's the way they manifest it through the Bible. I have no problem with that because I think they're earnest. The problem I have is with people who know better.
Yeah.
The problem I have is with people who've been to seminary school and they know the truth and they refuse to teach it. And it's no different in school, man.
Yeah.
Look at the sanitized, homogenized story that we're told every January about Dr. King.
Yeah.
He had a dream.
Yeah.
He wanted us all to live together.
Yeah.
Well,
They
let's
put
look
you
at
in dreamland.
Yeah, exactly. Let's look at 1967 Dr. King. 1967 Dr. King said, I fear that I've integrated my people into a burning house. 1967 Dr. King said, the United States is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world.
And then look at
1967 Dr. King said, the United States is going to have to do some explaining to God for the things that it does. I could go on and on and on. Dr. King said in 1967, it's funny that you tell us to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps.
No money.
When you came here as peasants, you were given land. You had county agents come out to teach you how to work that land. You had low interest or no interest government loans that gave you money to buy equipment to mechanize the farming of that land. And then you're the very same people to tell us we need to pull ourselves up our bootstraps and we have no boots.
Right. And then they're on welfare, the farmers.
So and they get paid not to farm. So we could go on and on, but the point is, man, that if you don't know your history, anybody can fool you with any type of narrative, and I think that's the reason why you see a guy like DeSantis, who's just he's a run-of-the-mill racist. Nothing special about him. But that's the reason why a man like him can say, I don't want AP Black History taught, because these kids might mess around, start thinking and learning and figuring out who they really are and how the scheme of things works.
But this is important too. It was Christians that was bringing us over here and selling us in slavery. It was Christians that killed Emmett Till. It was Christians that bombed the church. It was Christians that created atomic bomb. It was Christians that ran the Indians in the ground.
It was Christians who sanctioned the transatlantic slave trade.
And it's a difference between what we think a Christian supposed to be and what they act like. It's terrible.
Let's take it back a little bit further in history. And we all heard of 1492. Columbus sailed over. Every child learns that lie, right?
It's a lie.
But in the late 15th century, we had a couple things happen. We had the Songhai dynasty collapse after being in power for roughly 700 years. It collapsed. It left a vacuum. You know, this is after the Mali dynasty. It was of course many years after Kemet had collapsed, after being invaded by the Greeks and Romans and the Arabs. So you had Western Africa under a powerful central government called Songhai. These people exported leather. They exported cotton. Their leather goods are still infamous all over the world. They exported precious metals, but the biggest dollar or economic revenue they got was from their production of books, because they knew how to read and write, and they could translate your language into a written letter and teach you how to read. That was where they made most of their money. This is in the area that is now what we call Ghana, Mali, Nigeria, Western Central Africa. You've been there. Well, when that dynasty collapsed, what happened? We had Muslims invaded to the north who had taken over Morocco, had taken over Libya, had taken over Egypt, right? And you had the English to the north looking at what the Spanish and the Portuguese had done, with the Pope saying that they were free to take Africans out of Africa and enslave them over in the New World. And they saw that as an opportunity, and they teamed up to start kidnapping Africans. So if you don't know your history and what came before your ancestors were enslaved, you think all you ever were was slaves. I hear people to this day, black people, say they went over there and brought slaves back. No, they didn't bring slaves back. They brought back human beings, and they enslaved those human beings. But they think that's all that was ever there, was just a bunch of people running around with bones in their nose, barefoot, chasing rabbits and tigers, waiting on the day that they could be kidnapped, and somebody put a Bible in front of them, and that was a blessing.
Missionaries. But that's why they don't want that taught in the schools down there, because it'll elevate us.
Of course.
You know, that's what it is. And the thing is that this not only been taught in Florida. It's like 13 or 14 these states, man. They trying to change the whole curriculum for African kids, the African studies. Yeah.
But it's going to backfire.
Now tell me something. You start out there with DeSantis. We know he also is interfering in the universities.
Well,
they have to tell him this, report certain things to him. All right. What about Congress? Plenty quotes. Congress. Could they or should they do something about this? And what?
About what?
About what is going on in Florida, what DeSantis is doing. Does Congress have any kind of authority to do anything?
No. And even if they did, are you going to rely on the GED toting Marjorie Taylor Greene or the GE toting Laura Boebert or any of these other ignorances they have to intelligently evaluate data and come to a conclusion? You have people who are fairly intelligent and who came up with a certain ideology, and once they got in Congress, they flipped because the money corrupts them. The best example is Krista Sinema. She came up as a progressive. She had all these great ideas about how to move society forward, and now she's on stage out in Davos in Switzerland last week, high-fiving Joe Manchin because they conspired with Republicans to prevent us from ending the filibuster in the Senate. Now, why would you not want to end the filibuster? But
criminal intentions.
Of course, they're corrupt. So we have to get money out of government. We have to get rid of all these damn guns, and we have to increase the quality of education that's given to children. But the people who have the power, they don't want any of that to happen. They'd rather keep you down in the gutter.
Let's go in Congress a little more. I hear you, Dennis. I hear you, Chuck. I hear you, Ahmad. And yes, I agree. But what can we do to ensure that we get a better quality people in Congress, more qualified people? Not like this little baloney who doesn't even know what his name is and telling every minute something different, who is...
But you know, now Patrick, go ahead.
I think we got to stop lying to ourselves and come clean with ourselves and get involved with ourselves, because we're going down a dark road and a deep rabbit hole because we are not collectively being treated as a people that know and have a future or a plan for the future. And these black preachers are teaching white supremacy every Sunday, and they don't even know they're teaching white supremacy.
Well, you know.
So if the leadership is bad, the community is going to be bad.
Well, the thing is that when we look at how in Washington is going to be made up in the next, if they keep this going on the next 10 years, everybody who will be in there will have less education, because.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think Republican candidates.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
If you look at some of the Democratic Congress people, they are completely impressive.
Yeah, but
not only do they have excellent educations, but they also have a good moral compass, and you can hear it when they speak. Yeah. So I don't want to throw everybody into the same pot and say that we don't have leadership because we're all ignorant. We've been taught white supremacy from the church. There are plenty of black people out here who know better. But they're not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the Fox News viewers.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Who are going to grab that gun, who are going to say, yeah, I'm going to vote for that man who's going to cut Social Security and cut Medicare. That's going to detrimentally affect them because they're too ignorant to read what he's intending to do. That's what I'm worried about.
We could go back to Mississippi, Georgia, and them places like that. Back 50 years ago, when in the wintertime, just like it is out there now, they had kids walking around with 2 or 3 socks on, rags on their feet in the wintertime, and still would vote for this thing to be negative to them and us, but they think for us it'll hurt us worse. Mm-hmm. And so, that
type of ignorance.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Yeah, you can't change that.
No, you can't change that.
This is America.
Yeah.
We live here. We have our children, grandchildren, etc.
Okay.
What are we seeing based on what's going on now? What do you anticipate is going to be in this country in the next X number of years?
Well,
what is the hope? What is the future of our youngsters now? I mean, I'm way up there in age now, but what about these who are coming up? What's there for them?
Okay, for me, I think it'll be worse than it is now. If we keep going the way we are going now, you see. So what's going to stop it from being worse than it is?
There's going to be more RuPaul's, going to be more men kissing on TV. They do anything for $1.
Yeah.
And the music is going to get filthier.
What do you think, Dennis?
I don't know. I honestly don't know where we're going to be culturally in 20, 30 years. Yeah. I think where we are culturally now is objectionable.
Is now an indicator of the future?
Well, I say it's objectionable because we have too many people who don't have access to clean water. Uh-huh. We have too many people who don't have access to nutritious food. We have too many people who don't have access to a quality education. Mm-hmm. We have too many people who are surrounded by gun deaths and violence too much. Mm-hmm. I see that as the problem. I could give a damn about what dude kisses another dude. I care about the fundamental building blocks of life. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have the power to bring clean water into your home, and you have a government, I mean, we've seen from the lawsuits against the Michigan governor, Snyder, mm-hmm. we can see from the language in the lawsuits that Snyder knew damn well what he was doing when he switched the water source out of Flint from the Detroit mm-hmm.
area
co-op to water out of the heavily polluted, heavy metal laden Flint River
mm-hmm.
and pump that into people's homes.
Yeah.
They knew what they were doing and they knew people were going to die, but they didn't care. So I can't say that in the future it's going to be better or worse, I really don't know. But I do know this. I see a lot of young people out here who are sharp, educated, and determined to make things better, and that gives me hope.
Well,
yeah, but they need responsibility. I think we have to look up. Same thing that happened in Mississippi. We got to be more responsible as a community. There's no way in the world that an Arab should be selling somebody fried chicken in our community. And we should own the South Side. Those streets should be named after our people.
Well, you see, that's a show for another day, man, because you can go to those same neighborhoods and look back through the records of who used to own those businesses.
Yeah.
And there were plenty, predominantly black ownership in Detroit, in Pontiac, in Flint, in Saginaw. You go down the list, Lansing, etc. Why they aren't now? It's not because black people don't have the same ambition.
Yeah.
It's not because black people don't have the same desire to own those things. It's because of policy. You gotta have a capital to go and start a business. You go to the bank, now I can't help you.
Yeah.
Right.
But the same thing the same store and the same business plan is approved if the ethnic group of the person applying for it is different than African.
Yeah.
So we have to ask why that's happening. And that's not because we don't have the ability or the ambition. Yeah. It's because of systemic racism.
Right.
And that's what we have to find.
And so this is something that's been here ever since we've been here. But when you mentioned Dr. King said the worst thing was getting us to be able to live in this community and that community and do things.
Yeah, he said he feared he integrated us into a burning building. And he was rethinking his opinion on integration.
And that's what it is, you know. Ever since we've been here, it's been, you know, this thing. One night I was watching, and they was talking about New York City and showing the places that for years ago blacks owned it, but it's like blacks had businesses and all these things, and now some of those places you got highways and
freeways.
Freeways.
And destruction of the black community.
Yeah.
It was done purposefully.
Yeah.
And you saw it here in Lansing. You saw it in Kalamazoo, where I'm from. You saw it in Grand Rapids. You saw it all. Yeah. They put the freeways, and Biden, to his credit, in his new infrastructure bill, has pushed to move some of those highways to those historically black neighborhoods and restore the community, and that's a good start. But again, I think we can't look at one cause and say that's the reason why. I think we have to look at a more of a systems analysis of why things are the way they are, and it certainly isn't because we don't have ambition or the ability. It's something else that's a little bit more evil.
Yeah, we got fear.
Yeah.
I don't know how much fear we have. I just think if we got a place in town that calls themselves Crack Chicken, okay? Who gave them that recipe? Who is their market? Who are the customer base? But black people can't sell that chicken. Why? Yeah. I was reading an article the other day, and it's about something I'm really not all that interested in. But there's this gentleman in the New York Times. His name escapes me, but he's an expert on linguistics, language, and popular history. And he was writing about how the modern Broadway musical, which has a little bit of pop and jazz and syncopation and bright sounds, came from the black theater.
Yeah.
It's where Gershwin learned how to write songs that became standards. Yep. And you could go on down the list of things that have developed in this country and look at the foundation and see that African Americans, if they weren't the innovators, they were definitely heavy contributors who get no credit.
Yeah.
And you have to ask yourself, why do they make such an insidious effort to erase our history, to move us out of the economic system, to make our schools less than, to bring us neighborhoods that don't sell any fruits and vegetables, that have schools with teachers who aren't qualified.
Well,
we have to ask what is really going on and what can we do to stop it.
Well, the thing is long as they doing that, and they'll be doing it forever, they can always say, "Oh, look at them." Look at them.
Right. Because in essence, that poverty thinking, it creates self-hate.
Oh yeah,
and that's what you see. And the father is not being a father to the children, and the family is being dismantled.
Yeah.
And these black churches are talking about white supremacy and just not telling the truth. I mean, why can't you teach kids math? Why can't you do things that a leader should do instead of being afraid of City Hall? Stand up at City Hall.
Yeah, and that reminds me of they were showing. This is about 2 weeks ago, I think. They were showing the killing that went on in where the white guy went into the church and killed these 9 black people in some place in
South Carolina.
Yeah. And they were saying that the first thing the preacher started hollering, "Oh, let's pray for him,"
Right.
I mean, it's like
They actually prayed with him.
Yeah.
He prayed with them for like 45 minutes.
Yeah.
He sat down. His name was Dylan Roof.
Yeah.
And he sat down with them with his Mo from the Three Stooges haircut, heavily armed.
Yeah.
And these deeply spiritual people.
Yeah.
Who believed within that there's something better than what's on this earth, tried to pray for this young man.
Yeah.
And he sat down and prayed with them, and apparently he didn't penetrate because he stood up and he murdered 9 of them. But that happens all the time. It happens consistently throughout history. If you guys ever get a chance and you have access to HBO, there's a documentary called Kill All the Brutes.
Okay.
And it's about how Western civilization has murdered, enslaved, and displaced melanated people all over the world. And one of the first things they'll do is identify them as savages, brutes, less than human, and then they wipe them out. But you have to ask at the end of the day, who's really the savage?
Right.
Who's really the brute?
Right. Look at the history. Look at the track.
So you can't look at what happened in South Carolina or any of these mass killings, be the victims be black, white, or polka dot. You can't look at any of these occurrences and say that the reason why they did that is because the victims did something or said something, or that there was some type of motivation that set this guy on edge. It seems to be real simple. You give some people access to weapons of war. You give people unregulated access to guns and ammunition. They're going to go out and kill. They're just going to do it. That's just the way it is.
One last little question. Quick answer, anybody. Is it safe, or would you say it's reasonable to say that Congress, we need to do something about the people in Congress, put people who are concerned, because obviously we don't have enough people with sufficient concern about the country and what's going on.
Well,
is it safe?
That's what we were saying a few minutes ago, and Dennis was saying about, we got Democrats who are now who speak different, but if you look at the Republicans that they had running this year, luckily they wasn't, they didn't get to Washington, but look some of the people that Trump was backing, Herschel Walker. The man just don't know anything about, I guess he knows everything about football, but
he doesn't.
But
he knows how to put a gun to a woman's head. He knows how to pay for abortions. He knows how to neglect his babies and not raise them. And that's fine. In fact, that was one of the most sinister things I've ever seen, where they took the walking caricature of a black man who's supposed to be dumb, irresponsible, violent, hypersex, and prop that stereotype up as a U.S. senator. A U.S. senator against a man who's well-spoken, educated, erudite, moral. And they said, you don't want him. You want this guy. That's our boy.
Right. But they did the same thing with Clarence Thomas.
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine, messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.